On this episode of Mighty Car Mods, I won the cash. And so now we're gonna make the BRZ fast. It's possible, we're gonna do it, and we're gonna show you how.
What are we doing?
Making that fast.
Oh.
Welcome to another episode of Mighty Car Mods. If you've been keeping your eyeballs on the last couple of episodes, you would have seen that we did a battle, STI versus the BRZ. If you haven't seen it yet, check it out. I lost.
The car with the turbo won, and the car with all drive won, and the car with apparently a slower driver, which you could be right, also won.
What?
But that 86/BRZ put up an amazing, incredible fight. They handle well, they grip well, it had enough power to get it around the track. It was good, and you won the cash, so that's a nice bonus.
But now we begin to make it faster, and as such, I've got a little boxy box down here. We're gonna do a little unboxy box, and then the thing in the box, we're gonna stick in the box. Throughout this build series that we've been building up the STI and the BRZ, we've been trying to get as many things similar as possible, even though the cars themselves are very different, and we probably have, slightly different needs for the cars. We've been trying to do things like have the same tires, the same fluids, getting the same wheel alignment so we can get a good baseline of what's going on the track. Now, a couple of episodes ago, the STI got a new clutch, a twin plate clutch, so now we're putting a new clutch in the BRZ. Why? Because we're gonna be able to hold more power. So this here is an extreme performance clutch from Australian Clutch Services in Adelaide, from Australia. This here is kind of a street clutch that you can also use on the track, and it does 25% more clutching.
More clamping force. This stuff. Changing your clutch is one of those jobs that's kind of like more maintenance than it is mods, but you can upgrade, especially if you just kind of jump up one level higher. It means that you're going to get a clutch that's still easy on the pedal, still streetable, you can still drive the car to work 5 days a week, and you're not going to hate life, but does have more clamping force, which means it will hold more power. So if you're going to go to the effort of taking your whole car apart and pulling a gearbox out and throwing a clutch in, I think you might as well upgrade it, particularly if it's a mild one like this.
Yeah, and particularly if you're planning on turbocharging your car, or supercharging, or just getting lots of power out of it. It may be possible that the factory one is not going to be up to the task.
Because you go to do a sick drift, and you put all the power in, or you power on the straight, and it goes, but your car doesn't go anywhere.
There's nothing wrong with the one that's in there for what it's doing at the moment, but it does smell a bit fishy. It smells like a fish's pubis.
When you move it around, like when you're just like reversing and 3-point turning and stuff, it smells.
It smells very fishy. So anyway, that is the clutch. They've also sent us a flywheel, I think a lightened flywheel, which means that we don't have to machine the one that's already in there, which is good just for efficiency because we don't need to go to any machine shops or anything like that.
And a bit lighter is good as well, like it helps the thing rev up. Lightened flywheels are a bit of an art form, but it's not a bad thing to be able to replace it with something like
Martin, thank you for letting us use your hoist today.
No worries.
All of this job today requires exhaust off,
under the car.
Everything's underneath the car basically, and so that is where we're going to be spending our time. Anyway, there it is. That's the thing. You'll see more of that when we get to it, but we're not going to be getting to that anytime soon because
So we're going to pull the whole car apart.
we have to pull so much apart to kind of get that in there. But it is a necessary step for what is planned, for what is the worst kept secret in Mighty Car Mods performance history of what's happening to this car.
What is planned?
This here is, come on man.
What?
This here is required. So, today we're going to install it. You can hang out with us. Are you cold? Do you want a hoodie? We've got Mighty Car Mods hoodies. Are things dropping down? We'll send one to you. You can wear it and you can be a boss.
I want it out.
I know.
Release
That's
it.
why I'm padding time, Martin.
I want it.
What have you guys been up to lately? Is everyone staying safe?
Yeah.
Are you wearing your masks? There you go.
There it is.
Look at that.
Give that a bit of a tidy up.
Look
There's the
at
clutch.
that.
Cheryl.
Look at that. All right, so let's pull the car apart and stick it in.
There are so many mods available for the BRZ 86 platform, but once owners explore the performance gains that you get from exhausts, intakes, tyres and a tune, many are left wanting more. This is where V8 swaps, supercharging, nitrous and turbocharging comes into the picture. But more power often means that you need aftermarket parts to accommodate the increase. And in our case, before we add any more power, we're going to upgrade to a high-rated clutch and flywheel. This involves removing the gearbox, a job which starts on the inside of the car so we can remove the gear stick, then drop down the entire box.
Under the bonnet, there's only a few things to remove as there's no turbo in the way.
There's the clutch stave cylinder, a grounding wire, 2 plugs, and then the upper bell housing bolts to be removed. Just about everything else happens underneath the car. With the car going up on the hoist, next we need to remove the under trays, exhaust and drive shaft.
So the BRZ has continued to impress
So much.
with its ease of workmanship and DIY-ness.
I can't think, honestly, of a better car if you want to get something that's sort of like still recent enough and new enough to be safe and fun and actually useful. You might need to get a screwdriver in there and lever it off.
Yeah.
Like fun and useful and easy to work on. Like this clutch, I'm going to say it, this is almost enjoyable, and clutches are almost never enjoyable, but everything's so easy to get to. There's no complicated, you don't scratch your hands up. Like, your hands aren't even that dirty, just because it's new enough that it hasn't been made all feral yet. There we go, and come towards you, should pop straight out. Oh, I'll get a pan, because I forgot to drain the gearbox. Drain your gearbox before you pull the thing out.
All right, good. Now they know.
Now they know. Keep going, keep going. There she goes. Oh, actually, this one doesn't leak. Don't worry about draining your gearbox.
Oh,
we will drain the gearbox.
It's coming out this end though.
Oh, drain your gearbox.
Good. So now this cradle comes off.
We're going to put the what's it called, transmission jack up under there to support the weight. Pull the brackets off. I've left 2 bolts on the bell housing. Take the weight and go clonk.
Then stick the extreme clutch in there, reverse it, and then go back to the Mighty Car Mod shed and continue the work without a hoist.
We're draining the gearbox oil and then we can prepare to strap the gearbox onto our transmission jack. We've undone everything that looks like it's holding the box onto the car, so now we can give it a wiggle and try and remove it from the engine.
All right, so we've undone everything and we're just giving the gearbox a little bit of a wiggle now to try and
There it goes.
get it off. Oh, there we go. That's moved out,
It's got 2 handy spots that you can actually lever off,
which is cool.
which is great.
Needs a little bit of lateral jiggling.
My side is almost completely off the
Yeah, my side too.
dowels.
Can you get any more?
Yeah, I reckon I can off the rack.
Under there and pull. There we go.
We're off.
Yeah, we're off.
So close. Hey,
There
alright,
it is. Awesome. So you just got to get over the sway bar now. You go down on the back.
Go backwards like
Yeah,
that.
yeah. Sorry, the other way. And then bring the whole thing down a little bit. Down and then back towards the back of the car. Yep, that's it.
More?
Yep, and then down,
Hey. We're out.
down.
Yeah,
There it
dude.
is, everybody.
Yay, we did it.
Awesome. BRZ gearbox.
Out of 10, how hard compared to other clutches we've done in the past?
4?
Yep, 4. I was going to say 4. That's like a little bit of jiggling around, but there's so much less stuff in the way because there's no turbo.
Look at the access. Yeah, there's no turbo yet.
Yeah, yeah. My man, that's what I like to hear. This Aisin AZ6 gearbox that's in our BRZ has made an appearance in many famous Japanese cars over the years. Variations of it have appeared in RX-8s, MX-5s, Toyota Altezas and even Nissan Silvias. Aisin calls them small torque capacity rear-wheel drive 6-speed gearboxes that are good for 250 Nm of torque. Our existing clutch is in reasonable condition, however, it probably wouldn't last long with the extra torque demands, so upgrading it is good insurance. We're also removing our old flywheel.
Our kit comes with a replacement, but at this point, if you're reusing, you want to get your flywheel resurfaced.
On the back of the engine in the BRZ, we have this thing, which is a tone wheel. There's other names for it as well, but basically it's got little teeth here and it's got a sensor that sits there and reads as this goes past. It sees that as a little pulse, and that's what tells the ECU when to fire injectors and coils and stuff like that. You also see that it's got some missing ones. So often these are called like 36 minus 2, and the reason they say minus is you go 36 around or whatever, minus, like wait for the gap. So it's seeing that as an electrical signal, and that's what helps with triggering. On this particular car, it sits at the back. It's really easy to see. Sometimes on the front of the engine, sometimes they're hidden right away inside distributors. But this one goes in the back, and our new clutch can go on.
Our clutch kit comes with new flywheel bolts. These need to be torqued to the manufacturer's specs, and they need to be tight because a flywheel shouldn't ever actually fly. There's flywheel locking tools available that make doing this up easy, or you can get a mate to stop the engine from turning. The kit also comes with new bearings for both the flywheel and the gearbox. These need a little bit of grease, but don't go crazy or it will cover your clutch with grease, and a greasy clutch doesn't grip.
Our new flywheel's attached, so now we can install our mad new aftermarket clutch.
When they knock you down, get on your feet and call my name, and I will find you.
And there it is, a new performance clutch in our BRZ.
So that has been around 2.5 hours. Our new extreme clutch is in, and now the car's ready for some bulk powers once we K-swap it.
What?
Which would mean
What?
none of the work we just did
We
is
can't
required.
use that clutch on a K-series. We should put a K-swap in something else.
Put a K-swap in
Let's
your
worry
other
about-
thing.
Worry about that later.
Martin's done the old, is it
Nah,
called a bait and switch?
I haven't done
When you
anything.
show everyone your STI
done-
and you go, STI, 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 so that
No.
no one actually asks
That's-
about
we're
the
not
other
talking
thing.
about that.
That is the
The clutch
second
is in.
worst kept secret in Mighty Commod's history,
clutch
his
is
other
in.
car. That we had to take off this hoist so that we could put this on here.
We actually did, and then we
but
almost
it's
got it
black
bogged.
and it's mad.
And then we almost got
It's
it bogged out
awesome. Anyway, that's going to be awesome.
the
And
clutch
that's
is-
going to get a K-swap, which is going to be freaking
clutch is
awesome.
in,
It's going to
and-
be one of the fastest, most nuggety mad things we've done. You're
use-
going to love it. And then it's going to battle this once it's
We
turbo.
use the clutch-
Let's just tell everyone what's happening.
We use the clutch. We use the clutch alignment tool, and so the disc is nicely positioned. There's a thing on the back of that clutch plate that says gearbox side, so you've got to make sure that's pointing the right way. Now we've tightened this down, and everything's out of the way up here, and it's one of the most polite, clearest engine bay clutch areas I've ever seen in a car ever.
It's
Loving
polite.
It's
It
so
is polite. And now the backwards process is the reverse of the installation.
We're going to get the gearbox, we're going to jack it up, we're going to try and get it in position. This is going to be the tricky part, getting it over the sway bar and then getting in and then going good donk and making it engage into the clutch. That's a bit tricky. So we've lubed up the spigot shaft input bearing thing, whatever that's called.
Yes, we have.
And we've put a new spigot bearing. We've put a new spigot bearing? That one's a spigot bearing, and we've put a new throw-out release bearing on that. There's a lot of bearings.
Yes.
With all weird names.
See this fork over here? Some people talk about upgrading those, but I had a chat with Tyler who knows about these because he races them and that's what he does, and he hasn't seen one fail yet. So that has not been replaced.
If you put a really, like that's just a bent steel thing. If you put a really heavy clutch in, you might find the ends of that because you've got a lot of force acting against it.
Yep.
Not for something like this. That's another benefit of staying with something that's slightly closer to street and appropriate for the amount of power. The first question you get asked when you go to buy an upgraded clutch is, how much power are you chasing?
That's the first
And
thing.
it's the easiest way to shortcut it. I want 600 kilowatts. Cool, this isn't going to work. I
Yeah.
want 250. Yeah, this might
Yeah,
be all
cool.
right. 200, perfect.
But these can bend because in my Forester it did, and I had to replace it.
Yep.
So now
in.
gearbox on, all this cradly business on,
Yep.
drive shaft back on, exhaust back on, interior back together,
Drive.
and then whoop-choo!
And then, what? Sorry, you just sneezed? Do you want
No.
to do it again because you sneezed?
No, it's
We're
okay.
gonna, we need to bed it in too. So for the first sort of 1,000 Ks, you just drive it. Don't expect a lot of crazy clutch dumping in the first 1,000 Ks. You want to bed it in the same as you do brakes. Let's put the gearbox in.
So can you just adjust the angle? It'll be easier to get it up if it's sticking up
Straight
harder that
or
way.
more like that?
No, just stick it up and then I'll be able to get it. I'll just get it up near your face, hold on. Oh, it's taken It takes a long time to get it up, doesn't it?
It does, but it's got a second stage. Like you go back for seconds, it's like pumps up the first one and the second one pops out.
Oh, does it?
Yeah.
Okay.
But once the second one pops out, watch how much faster it is.
Really?
Yeah, watch, ready? It hits the second stage. Boom!
Oh, there it goes.
Double speed.
Viagra kicked in.
It did.
All right.
All right, we're gonna go up past the sway bar. Take me to the sway bar.
Now we just need to put it all back together again, and then I am ready for some epic skids.
So we drained the gearbox fluid before. We don't know how long it's been in there, and because we're up on a hoist, it's easy to change. To find the right kind of fluid now, we're going to rego to oil, and look at that. There's Mighty Car Mod showing you exactly what you need, but basically from here, all you need to do is put in your registration of your car, and then it'll tell you exactly what fluids and oil you need.
In this case, it's Intraction Universal Plus 7590. Keep an eye out for GL4 and GL5. It's really common standards, and regardless of your brand names and all your other stuff, you need to make sure you get that side of it right, because certain oils will wreck gearboxes or wreck diffs if you don't get it right. So it's important that you check, and that's a really easy way to do it. In this case, synthetic, high quality gearbox oil.
For competition use.
This gearbox uses the fill it till it drains out method, which is super simple. With that done, our exhaust can go back on, bell housing bolts inserted and tightened, and the electricals reconnected. The clutch movement feels good, but at this point it may also be necessary to tweak your pedal height and engagement.
Well, everybody, that was a magical journey into the land of BRZ clutches. It was probably 4 hours approximately, including a bit of lunchtime, but it all went in kind of easily. Lego BRZ, and continued to impress me with its general BRZ-ness.
Easy to work on. Obviously the hoist makes this even more enjoyable. Not the hardest thing to do on your back either, because luckily that gearbox is not nearly as heavy as that massive 6-speed that we put in the STI. So if you need to bench press it up into the car, get some help from some mates, get the car nice and high, otherwise the process is pretty much the same. But it's all back together, and yeah, pretty easy process, and should be a good thing.
A pretty simple one today. Of course, if you want to support the show, we don't do a Patreon or whatever, but you can support us directly by getting some merch from the Mighty Car Mod shop. You can get that from mightycarmods.com. We got stickers, we got long sleeves, we got tow hooks, there's air fresheners, there's all sorts of cool stuff, so you can check that out at mightycarmods.com. That's it, Martin. Now we'll go for a drive.
Supporting mod.
We'll test it.
Supporting
mod.
What's it
Next
supporting?
episode, people. Next episode. It's getting hectic.
What are we going to do?
Dude, everyone knows what's happening. They know what's going on. And luckily, most of our audience loves superchargers. Let's go for a drive.
We should probably take the hoist arms out before we try and drive it.
Oh.
Okay, bye.
And is that the under trays near your foot?
Shh. They can just stay there. Don't need them. You don't need them.
Dude, we forgot to put these on.
No one forgot. No one forgot.
We forgot to put these on.
It's fine.
All right, so the under trays are not on, but the car works.
Back together.
The clutch works.
Yep.
It feels kind of bitey when you take off, but it's a really light feel, really easy to drive. It doesn't feel like, you know, when you sometimes it just feels easy, feels smooth.
Which is all to do with that clamping force we're talking about as well. Like, it's how much resistance all the springs and stuff in the clutch are putting against your hydraulic system, particularly if your hydraulic system is unchanged and stock. It's also worth mentioning that it does pull hard at the top, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's not bad.
There is adjustment on a lot of cars. There's adjustment. In this case, there's like a pin that goes through a rod, and you can change sort of where the point of engagement is on the clutch. But because we haven't changed it and the clutch that came out was reasonably good, I don't think it's been messed with. If your clutch feels funny, it's always worth checking that first, because that can affect how it works. But also you have to bed a clutch in, which means right now you've got to put some Ks on it, make it work. It's just like brakes, you've got to bed it in solid materials, happy, and then you can go crazy on it.
So there it is, everybody. Thank you very much for watching this episode of Mighty Car Mods. Of course, if you want to support the show, you can get some merch from mightycarmods.com, like this hoodie or that long sleeve top. There it is. Clutch is in, which means now we are capable of making more powers, and more powers is exactly what you're going to see on an upcoming episode of BRZ Mods. Thanks everybody, see you next time.